Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to share with you some ideas on Parashat Vayetse, and this is the second part of GPS through Bereishit. I know Parashat Vayetse has been a couple of weeks ago. I just didn't get a chance to record properly once the sound didn't work, once the recording didn't work. So this morning I'm going to try and hopefully it will work. I was also thinking how Beshed that it hadn't worked before because as many of you heard, our dear friends Helen and Malcolm Norman lost their gorgeous grandson this week, Naftali, the son to Susan and Adam. And when I spoke to Susan and Adam, they spoke about how much Naftali loved Shabbat. And when preparing my talks, when I came home, I thought I would love to link my GPS on Shabbat to Le'ilui Nishmato, that it should be a merit for the soul of Naftali, Mori, and Asher Yosef and Rachel Danit, and that it should be a source of comfort, the Torah learning to his family, and it may be an aliyah for his beautiful, beautiful neshama. So from now on, any talks that I deliver on Shabbat will be Le'ilui Nishmato. Going back to the source, going back to Vayetse, I have a Chumash here. So if any of you want to take a Chumash, the Chumash Bereishit, or I will read the verses out. Today is quite text-based, and so it would be nice to follow inside, but it's not necessary, and I'll make sure to read and translate all the verses that I use. Whilst looking at the Sedra not this week, of Vayetse a couple of weeks back, there were so many different topics and different ideas that I could have chosen. The book of Bereishit is so rich with life lessons. But I've chosen a few messages that I hope to link on. And the basic topic, the topic of the verses that I'm going to use is hopefully how do we connect to Hashem? And how do we use the relationship that we have with ourselves to deepen and strengthen the relationship that we have with Hashem? And unless I mention that this is my own understanding or my own idea, please know that anything that I share with you is ideas that I found in Rashi, in sources, in some of the sages of today. And if I don't mention the name of the sage or the source, it's just because of my own memory not working great and that I cannot remember the person. But I will try as much as possible to quote the sources. And I'm stressing this a bit because it's very important to, when sharing a Torah idea, when sharing any teaching, to attribute it to its source. And in this way, it will bring redemption. It will bring Mashiach to the world. And Adam at the funeral said, please, can we all try and do good deeds or a prayer to speedy Mashiach to the world, that we can move from darkness to light. And that's why I'm stressing also every time we attribute its source, it says that to its source, to the person that wrote the idea, it says that it's mevia gula lolam. It closens it brings the redemption closer. So we will start by looking at two different verses. And the first verse that I want to look at is in chapter 28. It's in the book of Bereishit. It's Parashat Vayetse, and it starts at verse number 10. And if you remember in my last session, or in my first session on Bereishit, I discussed at length that every word, every dot, every nuance in the Torah is measured out. There's only 600,000 letters. So the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu has written the Torah is kind of like in shorthand, and the explanations by our sages are to explain the text of the shorthand into life lessons for us, into the mitzvot that we keep, into our guidebook, into this world. So when you look at the first verse, it kind of contradicts what I've been trying to teach you. Because when you look at the first verse, it says, Vayetse Yaakov mi Beersheva, Vayelech Harana. It says, Yaakov departed Harana. No, he didn't. Yaakov departed from Beersheva, and he went toward Haran. Now, if I were to translate this into the way that we talk, I left London last week to go to Antwerp. Now, if I tell you that the Torah is written in shorthand, even in longhand, I would just say, I went to Antwerp, right? You understand that when I went to Antwerp, I had to leave London to be able to do that. So what's the lesson? So what we see here from the text is that the Torah is coming to teach us a lesson, because as I mentioned, there's not one extra letter. So that the Torah wrote Vayetse Yaakov, which is kind of, we can think it's too many words. Actually, we're finding a life lesson. And Rashi, so we look at Rashi, and Rashi says, Yaakov left to Haran would have been enough. And we could have understood that he had to leave to go there. But explains Rashi. He explains that when a righteous person leaves town, he takes with himself the glory and beauty that he imbued in the place whilst he lived in that town. And by leaving, he's creating a void, an empty space. Because a righteous person living in a town makes an impression. It's not something that goes unnoticed. It's the same as when a righteous person comes to town. It makes a positive impression. And I was thinking about that verse when I went to the funeral of Diane Ehrentreu a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was around the time of this Sedra. And at the Levaya, at the funeral, I was thinking, what a void. We've been left with a huge void of the presence of Diane Ehrentreu, who was so approachable for all of us. We could call him, we could go see him, and his wisdom and his clarity on halakha and on his willingness on making himself available for anything that we needed or share of his wisdom, that leaves a tremendous, tremendous void. And often what we find in human nature, and I can just speak for myself, is that often we don't appreciate enough those righteous people, those special people that dwell within us, near us. And usually it's only when they leave town, either because they passed away, but sometimes they leave for other reasons. They move to Israel, they move to other countries. And only then suddenly do we realize, oh my gosh, like we missed an opportunity to revere, to build a relationship, to make a connection with a special person. And I was thinking of a message in the Ethics of Our Father, in the Ethics of Our Fathers, Pirkei Avot. And they talk about the surroundings that we surround ourselves with, the environment that we surround ourselves with, will have a direct impact and influence upon us, upon our families. And I think it's such an important message. Vayetse Yaakov, Yaakov leaving. It is so important and incumbent upon us that we make sure that we live amongst people that will make us stretch. So people that we can look up to. And I was thinking we can think about this in 3 types of friendships. So I can live or have friends that want me, that make me stretch, that I look up to, and I think, my goodness, they're role models. Or I surround myself with people that are role models that make me say, okay, I'm good, but look what I can do even better. I can add something to my practice. And then I want to find friends that are like me, peers, that we can discuss life and it's kind of comfortable. And then we want to have people that possible, or friends that we can be role models to. And I'm thinking our children, that they can look up to us and say, wow, our parents really have true values. And by, having above, having below, and having on the same, it reminds me of ladders. If you think about it, that stretch, that going upwards, that sometimes going downwards. Now talking about ladders, this is the Sedra of ladders, right? Because when we go to verse 12 in the same Sedra, and it says, Vayachalom, and he dreamed, Vehine sulam mutzav arza, And Vehine is always a language of surprise. And they appeared, they suddenly was a ladder, Mutzav Arza, and it's faced earthwards. Verosho, and the top of the ladder, Magia Hashamaima, reaches all the way to the heavens. Vehine, and again, the language of surprise, Vehine, and behold, and they appeared. Malachai Elokim olim veyordim bo. And on the ladder that had its bottom on earth and the top in heaven, there were angels going up and angels going down. And that was all happening in Jacob's dream. Rashi teaches us here that first you had the angels that were going up because he was leaving Israel. Beersheba is in Israel and he was leaving to Haran. Haran is not in Israel. So when he was leaving, the angels that accompanied, that look after him in Israel, needed to go up because we know that the land of Israel has a special level of kedusha, of holiness, and they couldn't leave the land. Their purpose was to protect in the land of Israel. So they went up again. But Hashem was saying, I'm not leaving you. Because even in Chutz La'aretz, even outside of Israel, I'm with you. And it's good for us to remember that when we're going through dark times, through difficult times, which we really are right now, to remember that even though it feels so raw and so painful, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us and He sends His presence to protect us and to be with us. So those are the angels that went back up and the angels that are coming back down to protect and to be and to accompany Jacob on his journey outside of Israel. I read a beautiful idea on, I believe it was one of the Chabad websites, and the article was written by Katya Bolovin, and it was a very long article, and I chose one idea because she used similar language. She speaks about the ladder in Jacob's dream as a spiritual GPS. I guess I don't have the copyright to the GPS title, but seeing that, I was intrigued. I said, what navigation does a ladder give me? You know, the navigation through Bereishit, the navigation through the Tefillah, which we've done last year, or through the Chagim. But what navigation does a ladder give me? And it connects also to the idea before that we spoke about the righteous person and having three types of friends or three types of people within our lives that make us stretch, that make us support, that maybe make us in positions of role models. And she speaks about the idea of the ladder of Jacob can be used as a device, as an app, to measure the progress of our own personal development. Each rung of the ladder, either descending or ascending, is a visual image that can indicate where my spiritual attitude is at any given time. She talks about developing cognitive and spiritual muscle to do the climbing or the descending. And in the same way that physical resistance stimulates the body to create muscle, so too spiritual resistance promotes the development of inner strength and resilience. We all heard, even me, that English is not my first language, we all heard the term always growing up also is the idea of raising the bar. She talks about raising the spiritual ladder, symbolized by the rungs of Jacob's ladder. Do my choices, do my thoughts, do my behaviors, do my actions take me upwards or do they take me downwards? And we know in Judaism, they always use the example of the moving stairs, you know, the escalators. When you're standing on an escalator, it's a real life lesson. Next time you go on the escalator in Brent Cross or anywhere else, you can't stand still. You're either going up or you're going down. Try and go in the opposite direction again. It's either taking you up or you're going down. And so too in life. We never at a standstill. We always either ascending or descending. The idea that she shares is, am I reflecting on my choices that are taking me on a journey, or am I just doing things by rote and not thinking? The dream in the Torah, and I love this her idea, is because we can use it as an app to measure my spiritual development. What an incredible portal from past to present, and from present to future. And I can use this portal, this message of the dream of the ladder. I can use this language when I'm conversing with children, grandchildren, young people, teenagers, because we can use their language, right? We can use it as this is an app that you measure yourself by yourself. You're not measuring yourself by the likes, by the pictures of the others, by the selfies of the others, but you're measuring yourself against your own potential. I don't want to be a sheep, and I believe no one else wants to be a sheep. So we can use this idea. I'm going a bit off piste, but speaking to the younger generation, we can speak. It's teaching them about Jacob's dreams, and it can really, really take us to having more communication and more language around growth, spiritual growth, with people of all generations. Just thinking about it a bit more, it's coming to the front of my head, thinking about this generation. And it's not just this generation, it's every age in this generation. But I'm thinking the younger generation doesn't know any different. We still know different. We know life before social media. The younger generation doesn't know life without social media. And if you think of the value of social media, the message is compare yourself to others. Am I invited? Who just posted? Am I on the picture? Am I even here? If I'm not on the picture, if I'm not at a party, do I even exist? And at least by us, we didn't know. So our identity wasn't so much based on all the ongoings. Here, they are constantly bombarded by messages. Am I pretty enough? Am I smart enough? Am I skinny enough? Am I social enough? Images and questions of are we enough? Are we enough? Nearly kind of being deserving. And they don't get a break. They really don't get a break of it. And it's all of us, even us that know different. Social media is in everybody's life. And very interesting, the rabbis in America made a huge meeting in, I think it was the Met basketball station. You see, I'm not so sport oriented, but it was in one of the huge sports stadiums, and they filled it with hundreds of thousands of people, or however many you can fit in there. And they spoke about the dangers of social media and the dangers of the internet. And this was way before, we were thinking about viruses and filters and the dangers of it. And interesting, today in 2022, it's not a rabbi speaking about the dangers. It's, the mental health practitioners, it's the teachers, it's the adult, it's whoever knows about it are speaking about, is your device filtered? Whose God is the computer in a place where people can see? Can you bring computers down? Can you get laptops so children are not spending so much time by themselves in their rooms? And taking this GPS app and talking to our children about it, who are we measuring ourselves by? And especially if we, as parents or grandparents, can teach them about role models, teach them about values. It may broaden their thinking about that it's not just against a selfie that we should be measuring ourselves. But in order to do that, I need to role model that I'm doing it myself. Interesting, in my work with families, I often ask parents, when I will meet with your adult children, or if I were ever to meet with your children, and I were to ask them, what are your parents' values? What will they answer me? Will they even know that values exist? No one is spared today. No one. We are bringing up children in cross generations. All of us, children that are born as oldest in the family are living in different generations to children born as youngest in the family. And I mean, in my family, this is really, really true. Our oldest is 22 and our youngest is 4. And I had a huge wake-up call of the difference when she was barely 15 months. That means she couldn't talk. I don't think she was walking at the time. She was proper baby. And she was playing with my hand. And I thought, how cute, maybe she's a bit more tactile. And I could feel how she was feeling for my fingers. Now, when I became a bit more aware and I was watching what she was doing, she was looking for my thumb so she could unlock my phone. Our children need our help. We need our own help, but our children, our grandchildren, the younger generation needs our help to help them navigate this topsy-turvy world. And what I can learn from those two verses in this Sedra is, first of all, attach myself to people that have inner righteousness, that have worked on themselves, that have values, that are real role models, right? That are looking to lead their lives by understanding right of wrong through our Torah learnings. And the day, through watching them, will inspire me to do just that one act of goodness and one act of growth. And by me doing that, hopefully I will be modeling something to the next generation. And what else we learn from here is that darkness existed even before the world of technology. It's not that suddenly we have the internet or we have social media and suddenly, darkness descended to the world. There was void, there was confusion, there was pain in the world. Vayetse Yaakov left. He left a void. And our journey, what we learn from here, is to live proactive, intentional, proactive lives and to make our choices that connect us to our spiritual potential. Continuing on a similar theme, but just taking it a bit sideways, I want you to look at the verses from 12, so the one that we've just learned together, Vayachalom. And the verses are from 12 to 17, from Yud Bet to Tet Zayin, but no, till Tet Vav. So till 15. And I'm not going to do it inside with you. I'm just going to, if whoever wants to look inside can look and can find the words. And the words that we're looking at are Vehinei, the language of surprise. But I want to explore these verses through an idea by our own Rabbi Sachs, and explained through the lens, through the understanding of an American educator, Zahava Farbman. And the question that Rabbi Sachs asks here is, why Jacob? When you hear the narrative of Bereishit, you should ask yourself, and it's interesting because I never asked myself the question, but the question is, maybe I should go a step ahead. We are known as the children of Jacob. Jacob, his second name, after he fights with the angel in a few weeks' time, he comes out, he emerges, and he has his new name, Yisrael. We know that we are the Bnei Israel. We are the children of Israel. We are the children of Jacob. And Rabbi Sachs asks a very simple question. Why the children of Jacob? First, we have Noach. A few weeks ago, we read about Noach and the flood, right? And what does it say about Noach? He was righteous. He was perfect in his generation. And he walked with Hashem. Why are we not known as the children of Noach? When we think further, maybe we should have been called the children of Abraham, right? Didn't he leave his birthplace and his father's birthplace in response to Hashem's command, right? Not only that, he was asked to sacrifice his son. He really lived with Hashem. Why are we not known as the children of Abraham then? And let's go further. Isaac, Yitzchak, he offered himself. He was 36 years old when his father took him to be offered as a sacrifice to Hashem. Why are we not called the sons or the children and the daughters of Isaac? Think about Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. We saw him intervene with the Egyptians, right? When he came and he saw that the Egyptian was hitting the Israelite, and he interfered in that fight, right? He intervened for justice, for doing the right thing. Only partly, he was the leader. He took us out of Egypt. He was Hashem's messenger to take us out of Egypt. He was Hashem's messenger going up the mountain to receive the Torah. Why are we not known as the children of Moses? Yet for all time and for all eternity, we are known as the children of Jacob, Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. Rabbi Sachs asks the powerful question, why? Why Jacob? And the answer we will find in the beginning of this Sedra, in the verses that we've just read. And we're going now, adding a few more verses till about verse 15, right? What do we know so far? When we encounter Jacob in this Sedra, where has he come from? So since we started reading last week, he has been running from one danger to the next. From in the womb, he was fighting with his brother. Who was coming out? He was fighting with his brother. Then he had to leave home because Esau he vowed to kill him, right, when Yitzchak died. He entered the house of Laban. He got married, the wife that he didn't work for initially, right? He had to work another 7 years for the wife that he wanted. He was constantly displaced. He constantly was on the run. He never belonged. He didn't truly belong in his family because there was the fight with his brother and his parents, one choosing one and one choosing the other. In his marriage, he was in Laban's house whose values were completely opposite, married to a woman that he wasn't the woman he'd given the signs to. This is a man that, if you think of the opposite of calm, peaceful life, where all he said to Hashem was, I want to sit and learn. He had the opposite. He had a life of running, of darkness, if you like. What a vulnerable existence. And then we come to this week's Sedra, and we read the verses, and I'll go straight into English. And it says, and the sun set, and night fell, and Jacob lay down, and he lay down to sleep. And what do we find? We find 4 verses where it says Vehine, the language of surprise, and behold, and look. It's this huge expression of, wait, something's happening that I didn't expect. Nothing in Jacob's life up to now had prepared him for this encounter. His whole life is running, surviving, finding. There was no peace, right? And suddenly, we find Vehine. What was the surprise for Jacob here? What did he not know? What he didn't know was he said, Hashem is here, and I didn't know. Vayifga b'makom. This can be read as he had an unexpected encounter with Hashem. Hamakom, as we say in a shiva house, Hamakom Yenachem. Hamakom, the place, that inhabits the whole place. Hamakom is another word for Hashem. What we see here, Vayachalom Vehine, Vehine Hashem, and surprise, Hashem is here. Vehine Anochi, in the next verse. Vehine Anochi Imach, Hashem is saying, and here I am with you. Think of the wrestling that's still coming for Jacob when he wrestles in the night with the angel, when he meets his brother, and there's the wrestling of will I live, will I die, preparing for war. And what's the answer? The answer is Vehine anochi imach ushmachticha b'chol asher telech. Hashem is saying, I am with you. Wherever you go, I'm going to watch you. Despite the darkness, I am with you. And Jacob's surprise, saying, Hashem was here and I didn't know, changes to Hashem is here and I didn't know. No surprise. Why didn't I know? Why didn't I remember? Hashem is always, always with us. Jacob is the man who has his deepest spiritual experiences alone at night. We know that night represents darkness. All his experiences are in the night and alone. He's the man that meets Hashem when he least expects to. Vehine Sulam, and suddenly there is this dream, and the dream of protection. The angel is leaving, the angel is coming. Hashem saying, I'm with you. I am here in this place outside of Israel with you. Right? When his mind is on other things, and he could be in the biggest state of fear and possibly on the brink of despair, he's the man that in the middle of his journey discovers that surely Hashem is in this place. Hashem is here and I didn't know. Hashem is here and I didn't know. How did I not remember? How did I not know? Because I know that Hashem is with me. All our forefathers gave us something. Abraham gave us the courage to challenge the idols of the age. And in every generation, we need to challenge the idols, the values that contradict our values. What did Isaac give us? Yitzchak? Yitzchak gave us the energy, the capacity, the education for self-sacrifice. Moses taught us, Moshe Rabbeinu, amongst his many lessons, taught us to be fighters for justice. But Jacob alone, Yaakov Avinu, Jacob our forefather, gave us the knowledge that precisely when you feel most alone, precisely when it's dark and it feels like the night and it feels like we cannot put that one step in front of the next, Hashem is always and still with us. Vehinei, and see, giving us the courage to hope and the strength to dream. Jacob has taught us the most profound of all spiritual experiences, the knowledge that we are never alone. Even when we lose, or even when those around us lose faith in us. So when we lose faith, or when those around us lose faith in us, Hashem never loses faith in us. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות לא יירא רע כי אתה עמדי. David HaMelech in the Psalms, in the Tehillim, says, even when I will go, b'gei tzal movet, in the valley of death, I'm not going to be afraid because Hashem, you are going to be with me. Though we may fall and go through very difficult times and situations, we fall, so to speak, in the arms of Hashem. Again, others may lose faith in us, but Hashem never does. He's there beside us always. The broken heart is the one that lets the light in. And that is our task. That's our task as Jewish people to fulfill here. We are the ones that can fill that light through our faith, through being role models from Hashem's Torah. We can fill light into the world. We are tasked to be the light upon the nations, even when there is very, very little light to be found. But remember the verses, Vehinei, that language of surprise. And He is. What is? Hashem is always with us. And that's why we are the children of Jacob, the ones that bring in the light into the world. Our connection to Hashem, despite the darkness. We bring in the light by building and climbing upon our own personal ladder, one rung at a time, one positive action at a time, one positive word at a time. That's how we bring light, and that's how we fulfill our task. To be the or in this world, to be the light. I was thinking back of something that Shulam Lema said when he was with us for Shabbat, but he actually said it at a concert. And he said, our task is to be activists. Our task is to speak up. When when things need to be done and said. But he said, what is if I don't have the gift of speaking? And what is if I can't stand up in front of other people? He said, how can we, as those tasks was bringing more light into the world, was showing the world that Hashem is with us, that Hashem is here. Shulam said so beautifully, how can we be true activists? True activists is by lying in bed at night or just before I go to sleep and finish the day, to choose one little thing, one little mitzvah. And that's how we are true activists. Because in that way I'm saying, Hashem, this is how I'm Jacob's child. This is how I'm part of the Bnei Israel. It's by finding you in the darkness and actively by choosing to do one more mitzvah that you've taught us, to do one more good deed. I can therefore bring more light into this world. And if we can all do one good deed in memory of Naftali Mori, how much more light will we bring into this world? And how much quicker will we bring Mashiach to a world that needs him so, so desperately? Happy Chanukah, and may the lights of the Chanukias shine very bright in our homes and in the world at large. Thank you.